Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Streamline Document Management with UnForm and Aktion webinar. My name is Sullivan Sanders, a marketing coordinator here at Aktion Associates. Today's event will cover how UnForm's Document Manager is a powerful yet affordable solution that automates the capture of either scanned or electronic documents for submission to UnForm's Document Archive and IDM. As documents are processed through Image Manager, data capture capabilities extract data that can be used to index, associate, and retrieve those documents. The flexible capabilities of UnForm's Image Manager solution are not limited to specific business processes and can be applied across your entire organization. Without further ado, let me introduce our presenter today. We are joined by Paul. And for over 25 years, Paul has been working with distributors to help them streamline back office operations to optimize employee productivity. And with over 10 or more of those years, Paul is focused on automation solutions like document management. And just so everybody knows, at the end of the presentation, we will be doing a Q&A, so please feel free to throw all of your questions in the chat, and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. And this will be recorded as well, so if there's something you may have missed, you can always watch it back online on our YouTube channel or reach out to Aktion to schedule a demo. Alrighty, Paul, I think it's time for me to hand it on over to you to kick us off.
Great, thanks, Sullivan. And thanks, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. What I'm going to do today is going to step through a few slides here, just kind of talk about our different applications and how they're used. And then after we go through these slides and, you got a good idea of what the various components do, we'll take a live look at the software so you guys can get a better feel for how it works and what it looks like. We are going to be showing, of course, working with the latest version today, which is 10.1. I suspect some of you are currently using us for our print management piece that works with, it works with fax, it works with A+ SXE and Cloud Suite. So we've got customers across all the various Infor applications, utilizing not only print management, but the other components we're going to look at today too. So this is kind of an overview of how everything works together. So we've got the print management piece that takes the unformatted output from your ERP, whether that's text data or XML, or if it's generating a PDF, we can take a PDF and enhance that as needed as well. And then the print management piece creates those forms and reports that you use every day, and then they can be emailed, they can be obviously sent to printers, and if you still need it, we can still interface with some fax so that you can fax the stuff. The archive is where we store documents for retrieval. It's our repository, and as documents come through print management, they're automatically archived, so you don't have to do anything to get them into the archive. And as the documents come in, they're automatically linked together based on common indexing values, so that once you've found one end of the transaction, any of the other documents associated with it very quickly and easily. We're going to talk a lot about the Image Manager today, which is the capture piece for externally created documents, or it could be a document that you generated and have added value to, like a proof of delivery with a signature on it. Image Manager is the component we use to get those into the archive. And they can be hard copies that you scan, so they may be hard copies, but if it's already an electronic copy, you don't have to scan that. You can bring them in a variety of ways. And we've done a lot of work in this version to automate that process as much as possible. So within Image Manager, we have what we call monitored inbound sources. They could be directories, they could be email addresses. So if you're scanning warehouse documents, you can point to one of those directories, scan those, the packing slip in, and UnForm will monitor the directory it lands in, pick it up, and process it through an Image Manager automatically. We can also monitor email addresses. So if you have folks emailing you documents, a typical example is inbound AP invoices. If they're coming in via email, we can monitor a mailbox and get the attachments off of the email and bring those in, again, automatically through Image Manager to get them into archive, stored and related for retrieval. We can also use, by the way, if anybody's already there or thinking about moving to IDM, you can also use Image Manager to push documents into IDM as well. And then in addition to Image Manager, Archive, and Print, we also have DocFlow, which allows you to route documents based on a particular business process. So some of the, you may have to route expense type invoices for approvals and GL assignment prior to entry. So you can use DocFlow to do that. Or if you have documents that have failed a three-way match, in AP, you can route them back to the buyer, or the warehouse, whoever's appropriate based on the particular problem, and get those resolved using DocFlow. And DocFlow also contains the ability to do signature capture. So you can capture signatures at the counter or out in the field, depending on what the particular situation is. And then one of the other things you can do with a combination of Image Manager and Archive is actually extract data from a document, format it for the particular ERP that is the target, and have that automatically populate your ERP to help eliminate or greatly reduce data entry requirements. So typical implementation would be, again, in accounts payable, where accounts payable documents come in, Image Manager processes them, and then we extract the information and format it based on the target application. So it could be, a text file, it could be the .dat file, it could be an XML bod. So again, it just depends on what the target is. It'll be formatted and delivered to your ERP. Again, the goal there is to eliminate as much data entry as possible. So think of it as, if you think of it as an EDI translator, it's very similar. It's just instead of feeding it EDI data, you're feeding it a document. But the result is, that translated data that can be imported into your ERP. Real quick, again, most of you are probably familiar with our print management application. It's a very mature product. It does a lot of things. So, it does trade control, duplex printing, all those various things. It can deliver, via email or fax, again, if still needed. It has extensive barcode capability. And it's got a programming language built behind it as well. So you can if you can think of it, you can probably do it with print management. Been around a long time, got a ton of users on it, and we still actively develop it and support it today. Image Manager, again, that's our document capture piece for non-UnForm generated documents. So again, we can monitor various inbound sources, which could be an email address or a directory. So you could scan to a directory or drag and drop documents into it. In the email box, they could be coming directly in, or you can set up email addresses to forward documents too. So if you're getting customer purchase orders in, to the CSR's email address, the CSR can forward that email or that purchase order to one of those monitored sources to get that customer's purchase order into the system, into the archive for storage and retrieval. And again, it'll be linked back to all the other documents in that particular transaction. The indexing piece of Image Manager uses a variety of technologies. Typically, when we're seeing emailed documents, those are typically going to be a PDF with a text layer. We can just read the text directly off of those to get the data off of that document for either indexing or to generate a transaction from it. We've got optical character recognition, so if it's an image of some sort, we can run the OCR engine against it to get the data off of it. We can read barcodes. And we can also look up data from the various ERPs. So if there's a piece of data that needs to be included in the indexing information or in the transactional data, we can look that up like a vendor number that doesn't necessarily appear on the invoice when it comes in. And then we can also, again, you can use the lookup capabilities to do data validations. So you can look for things like, does this vendor number, PO number combination exist, so you can use those data validations to help ensure that the data has been extracted as accurately as possible. We can also do math on documents too to make sure that the math all adds up prior to generating the transaction for it. And then again, the image manager is what we use for our data entry automation piece. So monitored inbound sources pick up documents based on the source's configuration. We know what to do with those documents. Comes through image manager. Image manager identifies the sender and then extracts the data appropriately. Push the document into the archive, and then we can deliver that data again based on whatever the particular target ERP is. We'll format the data appropriately to push it in, and then again we can push the document if needed into other document repositories when that's required. So IDM is certainly one of those. And again, once they're in the archive, they're linked together automatically based on common indexing values, regardless of how and when they come into the system. So, when a check gets printed, we capture that automatically. On the remittance advice, it's got PO numbers and invoice numbers, so we can link back to the PO numbers, anything with the PO number on it or the invoice number on it. So again, you've got a view of the entire transaction. So when you sit down to sign the check, all that backup you need to research any of the transactions is available with one search. So you can pull up all the documents related to that particular transaction. DocFlow is a application that's completely configurable based on whatever your particular business process is. Some of the the value of it is it does ensure that people follow the process. You can also include automated alerts. So if a document is sitting in somebody's queue too long, you can alert somebody that, hey, this one's sitting here, you might want to follow up on it, or if they're on vacation, or just if they get work to do, you can alert them that, hey, you've got some documents that you need to take a look at. And as the documents flow through DocFlow, we're gonna log everything that happens to it. So who did what to who for a complete audit trail. So if you ever need to go back and to reassemble a transaction and figure out what went wrong, you've got all that information available to you. So with that, I'm going to jump over here for a minute and we'll take a look at some of these applications we're talking about. Sullivan, how's it look? Can you see my screen okay?
Yep, we can see it perfect.
Got it. So what we're going to look at today is version 10.1, which is our current version. I will just kind of tease you a little bit. We do have a version 11 scheduled for release in the first quarter of next year. And after we get through this presentation, I'll just kind of give you a couple of highlights of what's happening in that version. There's some pretty big changes that I think really are exciting. So we'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the presentation. But it is completely browser based, so you don't have to install applications on everybody's workstations. As long as they have an internet connection and a login and password, they can get to UnForm. You have the main server page here has all the it has the administrative type things to do it, but the apps we're going to focus on today are the archive, image manager, and DocFlow. So first, if we jump over here to the archive, we'll take a quick look at that. This is again the repository. So this is where we're storing documents, and and it's based around what we call libraries. And a library is typically just going to be a logical grouping of documents based on a job function. So you can have an accounts payable library that would have all the various documents associated with that process within here. And then, of course, an AR library. And we have standard ones, of course, but you can create libraries as well. So if you have different needs, you can certainly set up different libraries with different document types in it. And then we've got multiple ways to search. We're looking at the one search, so I can go in and look for a specific document. We also have the ability to browse across different libraries. And then we have the search capability, which allows you to create, and if needed, save searches. So if you have particular process you need to run at the end of each month where you have to gather various documents together. You can set that up and then reuse it as needed. And then within here, as I start to type information, it'll narrow down what I'm looking for. But if I'm going to look for this check, I can pop it up and it's going to bring up a copy of it. Note that you can email from out of here as well. So if you're looking up some, invoices for a customer, you can pull them up and invoice them to them right from here as well. And then you'll note again on a check, this typically we capture it as it's printed, as it runs through the UnForm print management. And it's got invoice numbers and PO numbers on it. So because we have that data, we can relate them back to those documents. So if we come over here, I've got all the links back to all the documents that are on that particular check. And if I need to look at any of them, I can pop them up. So, I can see the check, I can see the invoice, I can see the pack list and the purchase order. So same functionality exists on the accounts receivable side. So, if you have a customer statement in there, it's going to be linked back to all the documents associated with that, particular transaction. So, it's a real quick and easy way to find these documents. And again, if you think about it, you're only, if you look at some of these documents, some of them have probably been filed and refiled 4 or 5 times prior to getting to this stage. When you're capturing them electronically and storing them electronically, once you've done it, you're done. You don't have to do that anymore. And if you think of, I've spent a lot of time working in distribution itself, and I used to, at the end of the month when a check run ran, I always felt sorry for our CFO because he had that big stack of paper sitting on his desk with the checks associated with it that he had to sort through. But when you have this in place, you don't have to do that anymore. It's all available electronically. It's also an awesome tool too for, if you have auditors come in, instead of having to go gather all those documents for them, you give them a login and a password and they can get to whatever you've decided you want to give them access to. So again, archiving is the repository where we store those documents, link them together, and provide the ability to search for them. Now, we also have other ways to do these. We've got some Chrome web extensions that can be added to inquiry screens, so you can launch documents within some of the ERPs directly from their inquiry screens. But and you can also create custom web forms too. So you can create a custom web form, link it to your website, and give your customers kind of a self-service portal to come in and get to the documents that they typically are requesting copies of, invoices and things like that. Now let me do something real quick here. What I'm going to do before we move off of this screen, I'm going to send this PDF to one of the email addresses that we're monitoring. In this example, this is some vendor invoices, and in this example, it happens to be a single PDF with multiple invoices in it. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit send, and then we'll go see what happens to that in just a second. But while we're here, I want to again kind of give you just another quick review of a monitored inbound source. It could be a directory, it could be an email address, and then based on how it's configured, we know what to do with the documents that show up in this particular directory or that get emailed to that particular email address. So the inbound source, again, that's kind of the first step in the automation. It's going to pick the documents up and then from there identify, what they are and what needs to happen to them. And then what's going to happen is they're going to come in here to Image Manager. And then if you look here, I've got, a list of documents. Some have check marks, one doesn't. The check marks in this example indicate that these documents, as they came in, they passed all the validations that we have applied to them. So, all the required information that we need from that document has been captured and verified. So typically the documents with check marks on them would just flow through. And the only thing that you would see remaining in Image Manager would be any exceptions. And as those exceptions come in, you'll note it doesn't have a check mark. And then over here, it has flagged why this one got held up. And in this example, I detected that this is a duplicate document. It's already come through once before. So it's going to hold it up and give, a user an opportunity to come in and take whatever corrective action, is appropriate for whatever the particular exception is. So again, anything that passes validations would just flow through Image Manager. And then move on to whatever process is next for that particular document. Any exceptions would be held up here. And again, you could set up here, an alert so that if something gets held up, you could alert somebody via email that, hey, go take a look at this and see if you can't resolve it. And then you'll see, here's my invoices that I brought in, right? It was that single PDF. And as it came in, as the invoice number changed, it knew to start a new document. So it split it up for us. So you didn't have to do that ahead of time. And this is an example of a document that is a PDF that has text on it. So again, we can just read that directly off of the document. And we didn't have to run an OCR engine against this. You can set it up so that it'll, if it detects the text layer, it'll process it through. If it doesn't, then it can will process it using the OCR. And on this document, we captured quite a bit of information. So we got a lot of header information that we're going to use to index. But on this one, we're also capturing the line detail from it so that we've got all the information off of this document to be able to create an electronic transaction out of it. So in addition to storing this in the archive, we're also going to push that data over. In this example, we're going to push it over into AP and Cloud Suite. To automate the data entry of this particular invoice. So it's come through Image Manager, grabbed all that data, indexed the document, and then pushed it on through for us. So let's take a quick look. So we're in this is the AP Invoice Center. If we go and we hit a search. Oh. Did I finish them? That was me. I need to finish them up here. So again, check marks typically would flow through, but because I have the automation turned off, I need to do it myself today. So let's hit go. So again, single PDF, we created 4 documents out of it. And there we go. Now, if we pop over here, we should see them start to come in. There we go. So those invoices came in and ended up and again, in this example, this is Cloud Suite, but again, we can format that data based on whatever your ERP you're using to import. But it brought them in, it's entered them into AP, and so nobody had to do the data entry to get those into the system. You can also send in expense invoices as well, works with expense invoices. Typically, these are going to get routed for somebody for approval prior to entry. So you can route them. They can approve them, sign a GL code, and then after that's happened, then push the data on in. So works for both. And keep in mind too, it's not limited. Just want to make sure it's clear. It's not limited to AP or any particular data entry process here. So Image Manager can format it, as a customer order, as remittance advice. Again, it all depends on what your ERP is capable of, and of course looking for as well. So it's not limited to just AP. You could use this for other data entry purposes as well. So again, doc flow, and then of course with Image Manager too, you can do all your other everyday kind of scanning as well. If you guys are, if you're scanning pick tickets, with signatures on them as a proof of delivery, we can use, we can read a barcode. Once we've got an order number off of that, we can query the ERP and get additional information that we need to store and retrieve that document. We can also, OCR data off of there as well as needed. So, those, you can have all, those very kind of simple kind of jobs like that, all the way up to the, the more advanced functionality we looked at, where we're actually creating a transaction from that document for import into the ERP. So Image Manager, it's a very flexible tool, can use it for, any kinds of documents. And you can have, you can have documents that are completely automated. You can have some that are partially automated, or you may have some that may require some, manual data entry, just depending on what that particular document type is and what kind of index information that you need to capture for it. So, if you're bringing in credit applications, you don't necessarily have customer numbers and customer names and things like that yet. So you probably need to index them in a different way. So very flexible. You can do tremendous amount of automation or just do real simple jobs with it. So, and again, you can use it for any particular kinds of documents to bring in. And then the last thing on the agenda is going to be a quick review of the doc flow. So what I'm going to show, I've got a couple of things set up here. Typically where most people start with this is in accounts payable, because it's a pretty paper intensive process. But and then typically we see two different types of AP flows. One for trade invoices where we're purchasing material for inventory, and then expense type invoices, which are our overhead type invoices, and they typically go through two different paths, because although they're invoices, they're not really the same. So in this example, we're looking at expense invoices, and the way this example of one, again, this is all configurable based on whatever your particular process is. This one's set up based on the dollar value of an invoice. So as the dollar value of that invoice increases, the approval level goes up. So you may have a branch manager may have approval authority up to $500 or whatever it is, and then from there, if it exceeds that, it needs to go to the controller, and then from there, if needed, if it exceeds the controller's authorization, it may need to go to the CFO or the CEO. So based on that dollar amount, we know who to route it to. And the way these flows are set up, you have roles and you have steps. So a step is what needs to happen to that particular document at a certain time. So the first step may be for accounting to take a look at it and figure out who it needs to go to. Or, of course, we can figure that out too based on data on the document. But in this one, the first step would be assigning it to the approver. And so anybody that has a role as an approver, would be included in that first step. And the second step is probably, go into accounting for, to confirm and enter as required. So the roles are assigned to steps, and then the steps determine what needs to happen to that document. And then within here, what would happen is as a document was assigned to a particular person, they could receive an email, with a link in it. And when they click the link, it can take them into DocFlow to the particular document that they need to work on. And then within here, they have the ability to add attachments here. So if you had an email associated with it, you could attach an email. If you had some other documents that you needed to include with that, you can add those attachments. You can add notes to it. So you can add notes to it. And then as we step it through, we're going to log what happens to it. And then the actions here are kind of the configuration based on whatever you need to do here. So these, again, are all configurable. So you have the ability in here to say, this one's good to go. I can enter a GL account. We do have the ability to look them up, help you look them up if needed. And then once you hit, note here, once I hit save and then forward, you'll see here that it moved it to the next role. So we finished the first step, went to the second step, so it assigned it to accounting. So accounting would be notified, hey, I got something to work on. And then we're also logging what happened and when. So you have that audit trail of what happened to the document. And then just real quick, another quick one. Let me see if I've got some in here. So if you have typically it's going to be a trade invoice. And again, depends on which ERP you're using. We can help you with three-way match ahead of time if needed. If you're on SX or CSD, typically you wouldn't route a document unless it failed three-way match. So again, just depends on which particular ERP you're using on how that trade invoice goes through. Some folks need to do the three-way match prior to data entry, so we have the ability to help you go through that using the doc flow. And then with SX or CSD, AP Invoice Center does that three-way match for you. So if something fails there, then you want to route it back to whoever it needs to go to. And I think, Sullivan, I'm pretty sure that's everything I'd planned to step through. So I think we can open it up for questions.
Yeah, for sure. It looks like we don't have any right now. But first and foremost, Paul, thank you for the wonderful presentation and demonstration. I even though I'm in marketing, I love sitting in on these because I learned something new about what we have as well. So thank you for teaching me even. But yeah, like I said, it doesn't look like we have any questions right now. We can give it just another minute. And if you guys are plopping in questions, I'll just go ahead and do a quick run through of a wrap up here. But yeah, if you do have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat right now. And if you are hopping off, like I mentioned earlier, we do have a survey. We ask that you please fill that out to let us know how we did. If there's anything you think we could work on or improve on, it'd be really appreciated if you could fill that out for us, and we will adjust accordingly. So with that, it appears you've covered all of it, Paul. So I think we're good to go.
That means I did a good job.
That's exactly right. I'm not complaining. Yeah. All righty. Well, thank you again, Paul. And thank you again, everybody, so much for joining us. We will be in touch soon, and you should be getting a recording, or we'll have that recording over to you guys here very shortly. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.